Picture this. You're standing at a crossroads in the dead of night, the air thick with fog, the silence so oppressive it feels like a hand clamped over your mouth. Two paths stretch out before you. One veers left into a shadowed forest, gnarled branches clawing at the sky. The other right toward a flickering light on a distant hill, faint and unsteady like a dying star. You have no map, no compass, no voice to guide you. Your feet ache to move, but the moment you shift your weight, a third path cracks open, then a fourth, then a dozen more, spiraling outward like fractures in a broken mirror. Each one hums with its own energy. Some beckon with promises of safety, others hiss with warnings of ruin. You want to stop, to collapse into the dirt and let the world choose for you, but you can't. Your mind churns like a storm, your pulse hammers in your ears, and the weight of it all roots you in place. Here's the paradox that claws at your gut. You're free to choose anything, yet that freedom feels like a noose tightening with every breath. Why? Why can't you step away from this relentless demand to pick, to act, to carve yourself out of the chaos with every fleeting second? This isn't some abstract scene. It's your life, replayed every day in 1,000 tiny fractures. You wake up, and the choices hit you like a wave. Coffee or tea? Answer that text, or let it fester. Take the safe job, or chase the wild dream. Speak your truth, or swallow it whole. Even the smallest decision, scroll through your phone or stare at the wall, carries a shadow of consequence, a ripple you can't unmake. You tell yourself it's nothing, that you're in control, but deep down, you feel it. The gnawing unease, the sense that every step forward is a step away from something else, something you'll never get back. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist who stared into the void of human freedom, called this the burden of existence. He said we are condemned to be free, free to choose, yes, but never free from the act of choosing. There's no pause button, no off switch. The moment you think you've settled, the ground shifts and the paths multiply again. But let's peel back the skin of this beast. Why does this freedom choke you? Why does every choice, no matter how trivial, feel like a verdict on your soul? Imagine you're in a cafe, the hum of conversation buzzing around you, the menu glaring up from the table. Latte or cappuccino? It's a speck of a decision, right? Yet your brain crackles with static, caffeine content, price, the barista's tapping foot, the faint guilt of holding up the line. Neuroscience has a name for this: decision fatigue. Your prefrontal cortex, that fragile gatekeeper of reason, wrestles with a flood of inputs while your amygdala, the fear-driven alarm system, spikes with low-grade panic. Studies show that after just a dozen choices, your willpower starts to crumble, your focus blurs, and you're more likely to pick the path of least resistance or freeze entirely. Now multiply that by every hour of your day. Multiply it by every day of your life. You're not just picking a drink, you're picking who you are over and over until the weight of it crushes you. And that's where the real terror slithers in. Sartre didn't mince words. Every choice you make isn't just an action, it's a manifesto. To choose the latte is to reject the cappuccino. To choose the job is to murder the dream. To choose silence is to bury your voice. You're not just navigating a menu or a career path. You're sculpting your identity, hacking it out of an infinite slab of possibility. Nietzsche might lean in here, his voice a low growl, talking about the will to power, the primal drive to assert yourself against the chaos. But what happens when the chaos never sleeps? What happens when every assertion just spawns more questions, more forks in the road? Schopenhauer, with his doer stare, would say it's the will itself, that blind, ravenous force inside you, pushing you to want, to act, to choose, even when it leads nowhere but exhaustion and despair. Let's push this further, deeper into the marrow. Why can't you just hand the reins to someone else? Why not let society or fate or some higher power pick for you? Picture it again. You're back at that foggy crossroads and a figure steps out of the mist. A parent with their stern advice, a boss with their clipped demands, a priest with their solemn promises. For a fleeting second, it's tempting. Let them decide. Let them carry the load. But the moment they point to a path, something in you twists. You see the strings dangling from their fingers, their expectations, their biases, their version of who you should be. Carl Jung would call this the shadow waking up, that dark, untamed part of your psyche that snarls at being caged by the collective. You're built for autonomy, even when it stings. Sartre would hammer it home. To let someone else choose is to abandon yourself, to slip into bad faith. A lie you tell yourself to dodge the raw truth of your freedom. Yet society doesn't exactly roll out the red carpet for your freedom. Look around you. You're drowning in voices telling you what to want, ads flashing the next must-have gadget, influencers peddling the perfect life, algorithms curating your every move like a puppet master. It's a paradox wrapped in a paradox. You're free, but you're conditioned to the bone. Cognitive science backs this up. Your brain is a sponge for cultural cues, soaking up norms and biases from the moment you take your first breath. The availability heuristic kicks in, nudging you toward what's loudest, closest, most familiar. Want evidence? Ask yourself why you're still glued to Instagram, chasing likes, when you know it's a hollow shell of a game. Aldous Huxley saw this in Brave New World, a society so drenched in shallow pleasures that freedom becomes a script you follow without a second thought. But here's the gut punch. Even when you see through the charade, you still have to choose. Rebel or conform? Scroll or delete? The cage doesn't budge, it tightens. Now feel the urgency clawing at you. This isn't just a fleeting moment. You're trapped in a lifetime of it. Every choice you've ever made trails behind you like a pack of ghosts, their voices overlapping in a chorus of, was it worth it? Did you get it right? Every choice ahead looms like a judge, its gavel poised, demanding, are you sure? Can you live with this? Viktor Frankl, who clawed meaning from the ashes of Auschwitz, might urge you to embrace it, to find purpose in the struggle. But what if you can't? What if the sheer volume of decisions drowns out any whisper of meaning? You try to simplify, cut the noise, declutter your life. But even that's a choice, and it spawns a dozen more. Minimalism or practicality, solitude or connection. The fog thickens, the paths multiply, and you're still standing there, paralyzed, the air growing heavier with every breath you take. Let's rip open another layer. Why does this feel so personal, so inescapable? Jung might point to the unconscious, that swirling abyss of instincts, archetypes, and buried memories tugging at your every move. You think you're choosing with a clear head, but half the time, it's the shadow pulling the strings, or the anima whispering desires you can't name, or the trickster laughing as it flips the board. Neuroscience nods along. The brain's default mode network, that restless engine of daydreams and regrets, churns out scenarios even when you beg it to stop. Ever catch yourself replaying a conversation, dissecting what you said, wondering if you should have gone another way? That's not just doubt. That's your mind refusing to let the choice die. Sartre would say it's because there's no finish line. No matter how final a decision feels, it's never done shaping you. It's a ripple that keeps spreading, a wound that keeps bleeding. And society? It's a machine designed to keep you choosing, a grinding wheel that never stops. Capitalism feeds on it. Endless options, endless consumption, endless growth. You're not a person. You're a decision engine, pumping fuel into the system with every swipe, every purchase, every click. Schopenhauer would sneer, it's the will again, hijacked by a world that profits from your restlessness. You're a hamster on a wheel, but the wheel's invisible, and the cage is your own skull. But here's the brutal twist. Even if you see it, you can't opt out. Quit the game, and you still have to choose how to live off the grid. Scream into the void, and you still have to choose what to say. The freedom is absolute, and it's merciless. Let's double down on the tension. Picture yourself at that crossroads again, but now the fog is alive. It swirls around you, whispering your past failures, your unspoken fears, your half-formed dreams. The paths aren't just roads, they're mirrors, reflecting every version of you that could have been, every life you didn't live. There's the you who took the risk, the you who played it safe, the you who loved, the you who walked away. They stare back, accusing, pleading, mocking. You want to run, but where? Every direction is a gamble, every step a betrayal of the paths you leave behind. Sartre's voice cuts through. Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Nietzsche's growl follows. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. Jung murmurs, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And Schopenhauer sighs, life is a business that does not cover the costs. They're all right, and they're all wrong, and you're still standing there, drowning in the weight of it all. But why does it hurt so much? Why does every choice feel like a wound you inflict on yourself? Let's go deeper still. Your brain isn't just a decision machine, it's a story machine, spinning narratives to make sense of the chaos. Every choice you make gets woven into that story, but so does every choice you didn't make. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, the endless what-ifs that haunt you. What if you'd said yes? What if you'd walked away? What if you'd been braver, weaker, faster, slower? The brain's reward system, that dopamine-driven engine, lights up when you imagine the road not taken, then crashes when you realize it's gone. It's a chemical trap, a feedback loop that keeps you second-guessing, keeps you choosing, keeps you restless, and the world amplifies it. You're not just choosing for yourself, you're choosing under a spotlight. Friends judge, strangers scroll, algorithms rank, social comparison bias kicks in, making you measure your choices against everyone else's highlight reel. You see the coworker who took the promotion, the friend who traveled the world, the influencer who has it all, and suddenly your path feels like a misstep. Huxley would point to the soma of modern life, distractions so potent they numb the pain but never kill the itch. You're free, but you're judged. You're free, but you're watched. You're free, but you're never free enough. Let's stretch this out further. What happens when the choices get bigger? Not latte or cappuccino, but love or loneliness, truth or comfort, life or death. Picture this. You're standing at that crossroads again, but now the stakes are sky high. One path leads to a relationship that might break you, another to a solitude that might heal you. One path demands you confront a lie, another lets you sleep in its arms. One path risks everything, another promises nothing. The fog is thicker now, the silence deafening, and the weight of it presses you to your knees. Sartre would say this is where freedom shows its teeth, where you can't hide behind excuses or fate. Jung would say it's the shadow rising, forcing you to face the parts of yourself you've buried. Nietzsche would demand you choose boldly, to live dangerously, and Frankl would whisper, in the space between stimulus and response lies your freedom. But what if you're tired? What if the space between stimulus and response feels like a battlefield and you're out of ammunition? You try to retreat, meditate, disconnect, simplify, but even that's a choice and it spawns more. Which app? Which retreat? Which mantra? The paths keep splitting, the fog keeps swirling, and the urgency keeps building. You're not just trapped, you're suffocating. Society doesn't care. It hands you more options, more screens, more noise. Your brain doesn't care. It churns out more doubts, more regrets, more what-ifs. Your soul doesn't care. It aches for something you can't name, something no choice can touch. Let's pull back the curtain one last time. Why can't you stop making choices? Because you're human. Because freedom isn't a gift. It's a curse you're born into. Sartre saw it. Existence precedes essence, meaning you're a blank slate thrown into a world that demands you write your own story. Jung saw it. The unconscious is a sea you'll never fully chart, but you have to sail it anyway. Nietzsche saw it. The Übermensch isn't a destination. It's a struggle against the herd, against yourself. Schopenhauer saw it. The will is a tyrant that never sleeps. Huxley saw it. Modernity is a gilded cage that trades freedom for comfort. Frankl saw it. Meaning isn't found. It's made, choice by painful choice. And you're still at that crossroads, the fog curling around your ankles, the paths stretching into infinity. You could stand there forever, analyzing, agonizing, but the clock ticks, the world spins, the choices pile up. Sartre's voice echoes, you are your choices. Nietzsche's growl follows, Become who you are. Jung whispers, face the chaos within. Schopenhauer sighs, there's no escape. Huxley warns, the cage is closing. Frankl pleads, find the why. The tension builds, the air grows heavier, and you realize there's no way out but through. But through to what? That's the question that haunts you, the one you can't stop asking, the one that drags you into the next step and the next and the next. What will you choose when the fog clears, if it ever does, and what will you lose when you do?